with Shayn and Orin.
What is up, guys, and welcome back to the show where we let our minds wander into some very, very bizarre inquiries. I am the one that they call Shayn Squatch, alongside
the big bad boo daddy, Orin Felix.
Man, I got to bring up a comment here. I think in the beginning, I need to do something a little bit more visually appealing as I come into the show. Like, you know, instead of me just kind of dancing around the camera, I got to like spin backwards and then I got to like spin around real quick before we start, you know? Either kind of give that evil professor kind of look, or, you know, I can whip off some sunglasses like we're really getting into it or something. Like, I need to do something more visually appealing, you know?
Yeah, it sounds like if you do that, you're going to just like smoke your microphone and knock your computer over, and then it would just be pandemonium over here.
But that's good content, right? People want to see the fuck ups because that's when you make blooper reels. Like, and if there's a blooper, you just leave it in the show, man. That's part of the fun of a live show.
Who are we kidding? This whole fucking show is just a blooper reel.
Yeah, ain't that the truth? And I guess with that, we can start getting into this blooper reel that we got going today. Same as last time, for anybody that didn't catch the new format for Bizarre Inquiries, it is now a 1 hour live YouTube show. We are currently live, but for anybody that's listening to this in the post, then you guys will have to make sure you guys pop into the next live section, because we would definitely appreciate you guys popping in, giving some comments, your guys' feedback on everything. And before we get into everything, of course, have to give a quick shout out to our returning awesome, I guess, listener / viewer, however you want to call him, since we are doing this on video. Patrick from Aliens for Beginners, welcome to the live show again, man. And I guess before we get into everything, just something I forgot to add in last week, or not last week, but last month. We are going to be doing a call-in number. So if anybody wants to call into the show live, I'm going to try to trial and error it, see if I can get it to work. But it should hopefully theoretically work. I'll drop the number a couple times during the show. Maybe actually, even better yet, I'll drop it into the chat if anybody wants to grab it. But that number is 313-364-1551. And at any point, preferably after we kind of start wrapping up, talking about any specific article, if anybody wants to call in and give some of their feedback and everything, and then maybe towards the end we can do something where you guys can just kind of call in and throw in whatever you guys want to talk about. And also, another awesome person popping into the chat. Please welcome Dan from Unacknowledged. And oh, why am I brain farting on his full name? I'm only seeing Unacknowledged because it's on YouTube, but I know that there's an extension on that name, but I guess I will extend it for him a little bit. But before I'm talking too much, Orin, do you want to throw anything in here? Do you want to say hi to the people in the chats? Say hello to the good people?
Hello, good people in the chats. I just actually sent a chat through, so I'll try to do better about engaging in the comments section as we go, because I don't think I did any of that last time. But anyway, thanks everybody for joining us. I can't believe that anybody wants to take their time and take time out of their day to watch us ramble on. But hey, thank y'all for being here. So,
and it's Unacknowledged and Unknown. If anybody wants to check out his YouTube channel, like I said, I only see part of the name here, but he does a lot of awesome stuff diving into Sasquatch, UFO stuff, a lot of that stuff. He's been a previous guest on Inquiries of All Reality. I don't think he has been on Bizarre Encounters, though. Has he, Orin?
I don't believe so.
Maybe it'll happen one day, but to kind of get into today's show, we have 4 things for you guys, same as we did last time, and just like Don Schneider, there it is. Yep, I knew his last name was Schneider. I just want to make sure that I was saying it correctly. I think, did I say Dan? If I said Dan, I apologize, Don. But so diving into stuff today, kind of like how we did it last week, we're going to do a sandwich here where I got something, Orin's got 2 articles / clips that go together, and then we'll wrap up with something a little bit funnier towards the end. But the first one we're going to be diving into today, and I kind of want to get your opinion on this one before we even really start fully diving into it. But I know that there's been a lot of people that do these random YouTube videos talking about basically these like conspiracies behind cartoons and what the true meaning of the cartoon might be. I don't know if you're familiar with any of these, Orin.
So is
if
this
you
like
are,
when there's like penises in the Disney movies and whatnot?
No, not exactly like that, but more so like, I guess I don't want to get too far into this first one yet, but just kind of throw an idea out there. I know I've read about one where for SpongeBob, the main characters, they're supposed to represent the 7 deadly sins, like Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends is supposed to be like the kids in a coma the whole time.
Yeah, like isn't there something like Winnie the Pooh, like all the characters, like each one of them's like a different mental illness or something like that?
Yes.
Okay,
This is
cool.
exactly what it is. It's like the conspiracies based around the cartoons. They're not like, crazy government conspiracies or anything like subliminal or anything like that, but just kind of like what the perception of these shows could possibly be. And some of these are absolutely fascinating. And I grabbed kind of a quick article on these ones today because it's something I've been wanting to dive into for a while. I think it'd be fun to do a full like episode of it for Bizarre Encounters at some point. So maybe we can do that, but kind of diving into some of these ones today, and up to you, Orin, which ones you actually want to read. I'll kind of just drop the lines. We can put our thoughts on them here. But the first one is that SpongeBob and his friends are mutants.
Yeah, let's run through that one. That sounds kind of fun.
Okay, so in July 1946, the United States had conducted the first nuclear test after World War II. The explosion took place at the Bikini Atoll Lagoon in the Pacific Ocean. The irradiation was seriously underestimated, and in 1997, the International Atomic Energy Agency reported that the Bikini Atoll was still uninhabitable. Nickelodeon's official... Why am I always... Synopsis, there it is, synopsis of the show SpongeBob SquarePants states that Bikini Bottom, the town it is set in, is actually part of the real-world Bikini Atoll. It is, in fact, situated right underneath it. One of the bombs that was detonated during the real test was done so underwater. The resulting explosion was photographed, and every explosion in the episode of SpongeBob, that was quite a lot to watch, blah blah blah, is an exact replica of the photographed explosion. So the theory goes and says that all of the wacky residents of Bikini Bottom are actually mutants resulting from this nuclear testing. That's the mind-blowing revelation. And I've heard that one before. At least I've seen some of the pictures. I don't know if it's stuff that people kind of put together online, but that like island that they show in the beginning of SpongeBob before they go into the water. I mean, it seems like, if there is some validity to it, it's definitely an interesting theory.
Yeah, I think I've actually heard this one before too. Like I didn't know any of the details, like the background and all the real world stuff, which is pretty wild. But I did hear, like the whole nuclear angle with it. So is there anything else to this that like, I mean, are they supposed to be like, obviously it says mutants, like what's SpongeBob supposed to be? Is he supposed to be like a sea sponge?
A mutant sea sponge. But remember, his parents are like normal sponges and he's like a, kitchen sponge.
I'm not a big SpongeBob person. I think that was like a little bit after like my time. So like some of my younger coworkers I hear talk about it, and they'll just like go on for hours with SpongeBob quotes, and I don't have a clue what they're talking about.
I mean, it's got a lot of good adult humor within it. Like, I mean, like the Krusty Krabs in the Bikini Bottom. I mean, kind of do what you want with that one. A lot of adult humor, but I think that one of the funniest things for SpongeBob, and I don't know how much validity there is to this, or if it's just something that people have said on the internet, but they originally said that the show was intended to be like an adult cartoon.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah, SpongeBob and Patrick were supposed to be like a gay couple, and then Squidward was like their, uppity, neighbor that wanted nothing to do with them and everything, and it was just supposed to be a lot more raunchy, and then it got picked up as a kids show, and they cleaned it up a little bit, but again, there's still a lot of adult humor. There's a lot of, Patrick, for example, wearing fishnet tights, and I'm sure that makes a lot of children feel weird in the pants at some point.
Or, I mean, maybe the children just don't even know what's going on. If your child is sexually attracted to a mutant starfish, I mean...
They might be a furry. I mean, there's your first sign right there.
No comment. Let's move on. What else we got?
I just want to give another quick shout out here. We have another awesome person that popped into the chat. I can't see the full names on Riverside. Maybe I'll have to bring it up on YouTube, but it's coming up as Foot. So
we have aliens
welcome,
and Foot in here now.
Aliens, Foot, and Unacknowledged. So welcome all three of you guys. We definitely appreciate all of you guys being here. Oh, it says Foot Clan. I can see it on YouTube. I just can't see it on Riverside. So welcome, Foot Clan. Sasquatch Chronicles episode called I Wouldn't Believe It If I Didn't See It Myself. They say that Sasquatch loves to watch SpongeBob. That's what he said. And actually, I've heard that episode before. I don't know if you listen to Sasquatch Chronicles, but I remember hearing one episode where somebody was saying that they leave SpongeBob playing in their back because they would the Sasquatch would watch from the tree line and watch SpongeBob, like all the juveniles. But
so does Sasquatch just like get stoned and eat all the treats in the house and watch SpongeBob?
I really fucking hope so, because I just want to hope that Sasquatch is a lot closer related to us than we think that they are. Like, they're just going and they're collecting magic mushrooms and they're just sitting in the back and watching fucking SpongeBob. Like,
yeah, like we think we're gonna get like some sort of higher level of consciousness from Sasquatch. No, we're just gonna turn him into a stoned lazy idiot. That's all that's gonna happen.
Start leaving fucking Cheetos in the back, and then you just start hearing this.
God
You just see
damn it,
your
Patty.
hands on everything.
All right, what else we got here on these cartoon conspiracies?
So we got
Garfield.
Garfield isn't the average house cat. Garfield spends a lot of time relaxing, eating 10 times his body weight, and still feels hungry. Not really something normal cats would do. Well, that would be if they were actually starving. This series suggests that Garfield fell through a wormhole in his sleep and wound up in the future, where he remains to this day. In this setup, he is actually abandoned long ago by John and spends his time hallucinating happy memories while he starves to death. This begins to circulate after the very different Halloween special in 1984. See the whole comic strip here, which was quite dark when compared to the usual funny ones. It began with him waking up, finding the house empty, windows boarded up and grass overgrown, all signs of an abandoned house. The fear of being alone is so traumatic that he forces himself back into the hallucination. The weekly comic strip then continues as usual. However, that special edition series could mean that the entire story is just a slice of his imagination, much like a slice of his favorite lasagna that he devoured, or not. Garfield's grumpiest and general criticism may not seem so annoying now, eh? I mean, here's the comic strip. Join Opie, anybody home, I'm alone. You have no idea how alone you are, Garfield. Like that is like a weirdly dark comic strip.
So now he's hearing voices too.
Definitely hearing voices. I mean, fuck, dude. This cat's going around and eating lasagna. I mean, there's clearly something not right about this.
So I think it's in Anchorman Part 2, which is not as good as the first one, but it's still pretty funny. Do you remember the part where like they're standing around reading the Garfield comics and Brian Fantana is just like having an absolute fucking shit fit? He's like, "This is some high quality Garfield, Ron." Like that gets me every time. Like anytime I hear Garfield, that's just what I think of is Brian Fantana just losing his shit. So
this is some fantastically dark Garfield.
Anyway, that's all my commentary about Garfield.
Just to bring back something with the side chats, he says, I don't think, or this is Foot Clan. He says, I don't think Sasquatch likes weed. He definitely probably likes mushrooms, though, because, I mean, why not? Bring yourself to that higher elevation. They say they broke 3 of my friends' plants that were in their area near a raspberry patch. Dude, how did you know that they love Cheetos? You're a natural. I just assume because everybody loves Cheetos, man. And maybe the Sasquatch don't like the cannabis plant because it smells like a skunk. And it's like, oh, hell no. What the hell is this? But the mushrooms, though. I mean, if we've learned anything from, what's that recent weird Sasquatch movie? Crap. What was that called? That really, really bad Sasquatch movie.
That one was
Sasquatch
like Jesse
Sunset.
Eisenberg. Yeah. I didn't watch that. I heard it was terrible and I skipped it. Yeah,
so there's a bunch of Sasquatches eating mushrooms in that, and there's another scene where one of them eats a bunch of berries and ends up getting eaten by a cougar. So, maybe the reason why Sasquatch doesn't like doing psychedelics is because they run the risk of being eaten by a cougar. I don't know.
Are they hot, sexy cougars? Because if so, that doesn't sound so bad.
Well, I don't know, man. Maybe you should eat some mushrooms and go out in the woods and go hunting for cougars.
If I had a dime for every time I've done that.
So hopping back in with the cartoon conspiracies, and this one is one of my personal favorites, and this is the reason why I kind of want to bring part of this up on the show, about the monsters and Courage the Cowardly Dog. And this one, I think, has a lot of good validity to it.
Okay, I know nothing about Courage the Cowardly Dog, so I'm probably not going to be able to add much to this one.
How? You're not that much older than me. How did
old.
you not watch Courage, man? That was like one of the greats, man.
I'm old, and we didn't have cable when I was a kid.
So, leaving it as basic as I possibly can, there's this dog that lives in the middle of nowhere with her, and she lives with this old lady and her husband, Eustace Bang. I'm also partially saying the theme song for anybody that gets the joke. But anyways, they live in this farmhouse in the middle of nowhere, and these random monsters show up, and Courage freaks the fuck out, and he tries to tell the owners that there's a crazy monster out here, and the owners are just like, oh, no, it's fine, sweetie, no worries. And then the other guy's like, fuck you, dog, you make me look bad, and then beats the shit out of the dog. But just knowing the basic premise of the show is that, we'll hop into this theory. We all love this little purple pup living in the middle of nowhere, always trying to protect his owners, Muriel and Eustace, from monsters that are often quite disturbing and nightmarish. And that was one of the best parts about it. Those early 2000s, going back to the 80s things that are like kid shows, but they're nightmare fuel. Like Courage the Cowardly Dog was definitely one of those.
Okay.
In fact, every single character, apart from Muriel and Eustace, are some sort of monster. A bit strange, don't you think? that maybe because Courage is terrified of strangers, and that's how he sees completely normal people who are familiar to him as scary monsters, out to get them all. Remember, the show is always from the viewpoint of Courage. This must explain why Muriel and Eustace never flinch when they see those so-called monsters. Even if it means the end of the world to Courage, it also explains the big meanie Eustace constantly bullying Courage, calling him stupid and scaring him with more than a Halloween mask. I am sure glad he at least had Muriel to console him. So this is honestly what I kind of interpret it as, and I think it's a really, really good theory, is that basically the show is just supposed to be a dog's perspective of people coming to their house, which kind of almost makes the show funnier.
No, that makes sense. I mean, it's like dogs freak out over the UPS man or whatever.
Yeah, like he'll see like these
yeah. I've seen, I haven't seen it, but I mean, I know kind of what that is.
The owners are just like passive the whole time. Like there'll be some crazy shit happening, and they're just like, "Oh, what a wonderful day!" And the Courage is just like trying to tell him shit. Again, makes sense. It's the viewpoint of a dog. Everything's fucking scary.
Yeah,
but the problem is when he's barking at something that's not there. I mean, which episodes of the show were actually that? That's a good question.
Dun dun dun
dun dun dun. So let's see. We got, because I don't want to waste too much time on this, I'll read what the next few are, and then I'll let you kind of pick which ones you want to dig into a little bit more.
All right.
So we got a Scooby-Doo conspiracy, and like I said, we can come back to this for a normal episode of Bizarre Encounters, because this would be a fun one to dive a little bit more into, so I can put something fully together for this. So we'll double back at some point for the ones we don't get to, but we also got Scooby-Doo on this list. We got Samurai Jack. Actually, that was it.
I know nothing about Samurai Jack, so if you want to do the Scooby-Doo one before we round this out, that's cool with me.
Well, shit, there's only 2 left. I might as well just do both at this point. So Scooby-Doo and the big economics collapse. A bunch of friends and a dog most loved roaming around the countryside in their cool mystery machine, solving crimes like a fantastic way to spend the day, right? Yes, until you begin to question why there are so many crimes and why the cops never tell them to leave crime fighting to the professionals. A post-depression theory explains that the show happens to be set in a time of economic depression so severe that it affected even rich celebrities and people in respectful fields. Due to this, people with marketable skills too succumb to a life of crime. No adult questions the wandering teenagers because they're too busy committing the crimes they had to fight. All schools have been shut down, and that's why we see the gang always on the road with no destination. Also, they happen to run into many spooky rundown places because that's what's left in the world. I mean, that one maybe not as plausible, but definitely interesting, right?
So I have 2 questions. Number 1, are you a Daphne or a Velma guy?
That's a hard question. What's the one with the glasses?
That's Velma.
Then probably that one. I think the nerdy, natural, cute girls are usually more my speed than the wannabe hotties, I guess. Okay. So I probably have to go with that one.
All right, that was question number 1. Number 2, have you seen the Robot Chicken sketch where it's like the girl with the dragon tattoo joins forces with the Scooby-Doo gang?
Very, very vaguely. I used to watch the shit out of Robot Chicken, but it's been at least like 15 years, so I only vaguely remember like certain skits.
Well, that's like some of the funniest shit I've ever seen. So anyway, that's all I got.
What's the show where they're like, oh no, we're trying to solve a mystery, and the girls keep bending over in front of Fred? Was that like, I feel like it was a Family Guy skit, or it might have been another Robot Chicken skit at some point.
I don't know about that one.
All right, so I guess before we hop into the last one, we'll double back into the chats right here for a second. Let's see. What was the last spot I stopped off at? I suspect Squatch ate some wild cannabis where I went fishing. That's what Don was saying. And then we pop back in. I have actually heard people say that they have gotten into their pot plants. The worst cartoon conspiracy is the predictive programming on The Simpsons. Matt Groening, the executive producer, is a 33rd Freemason, is what I've heard.
That's pretty interesting.
So, I mean, definitely a good one, because I mean there's 2 sides to that one, where there's either one, the people that think that he's like pulling information from the future, or 2, there's also the aspect of the whole Freemason planning these events for the future, like we've talked about on the show, that they have to make people aware of things before they do things.
Revelation of the method.
Exactly. So I mean, when it comes to The Simpsons, there's definitely way too many coincidences to just call it a coincidence anymore. Like, there's definitely some weird stuff lining up. And I guess it depends on if you get into the little bit more woo-woo side of things, where people might be able to see future points in the timeline, or if you get more into the Freemason occult side of things about, basically planning events and making people subconsciously aware of events. But, I mean, we'll definitely make sure that we include The Simpsons when we come back for that cartoon conspiracy episode. And hopping into the last one, Professor Utonium and Samurai Jack. The Powerpuff Girls and Samurai Jack are two entirely different shows, but notice the striking similarities between the Professor and Jack. The theory says that Samurai Jack is a sequel to the Powerpuff Girls and is set in a post-apocalyptic Townsville. The city the girls live in the first episode of Samurai Jack, we see him wandering through the remains of a town that strongly resembles it. We also get to see a half-destroyed advertised billboard that is shown hanging on one of the skyscrapers in some episodes of Powerpuff Girls. Watch here. This theory also suggests that the cute, evil Mojo Jojo went back in time to do his favorite thing, taking over the world in the form of a shape-shifting demon, Aku, that is the antagonist in Samurai Jack. By doing so, he prevented the creation of the Powerpuff Girls, but Professor Utonium, smart as he is, figured out and came back as Samurai Jack to put an end to Mojo Jojo's monkey business and save the girls. This is by far my most favorite conspiracy theory because it ends with good triumphing. Nah, that's just the writer's bullshit on that. But anyways, apparently Samurai Jack possibly turning into, or I guess Professor Utonium turning into Samurai Jack. I don't know how much validity there is to that one, but it's definitely an interesting theory. Did you watch Powerpuff Girls / Samurai Jack? Any of that stuff?
Yeah, I got nothing on either one of those. But in a strange synchronicity, I just saw this comment pop up from Foot, and it says, and you could not make up a better segue if we tried. Look into something the Vatican had decades ago called the chronoscope. They could see into the future using this device. Well, do you know what we're talking about next?
I'm assuming that.
The fucking Vatican. So,
well, perfect. Well, I guess we can segue, but I have to make one quick comment before we leave because I found this interesting that I heard the other day. You know the Gorillaz, right?
Yeah, the band.
I would hope you know the Gorillaz, right? So, do you follow like their whole thing with like the bands, like, because obviously the Gorillaz is one guy, and
it's the guy from Blur, like the woo-hoo, doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo. It's the same guy.
Yeah, so he creates like this timeline and story using like the four people that are in the band, right? So in his newest album, he actually has a point where the bass player gets arrested. And for anybody that's familiar with the bass player, it looks like he's this like green-faced guy with like a pointy nose and stuff. And I was reading somewhere that this guy, the guy from the Gorillaz, actually got the permission from the people that own the rights to the Powerpuff Girls. So I'm assuming something has to do with Cartoon Network. And not that you watched that show, but there was these bad guys called the Green Gang. And there was three of them. And the one main guy had this like long hair. He wore the glasses like the bass player from the Gorillaz. He had the long pointy nose. And apparently the bass player, according to like the music video lore, like all the stuff he's kind of created around it, got arrested. And the new bass player for the Gorillaz is actually the one dude from the Green Gang from the Powerpuff Girls. And I was like, I thought this was some crazy conspiracy that somebody came up with. And I started looking it up. And yeah, according to the storyline, one of the characters from the Powerpuff Girls is now the bass player for the Gorillaz. So cool fun fact for you.
Wow.
And I guess we will segue into the next bit. I know that you said that you had a video for the first one. Is that the first one you want me to play here?
Yeah, it's like a little over a minute long YouTube video. Let's do that first, and then we'll kick into an article.
Perfect. All right, bringing it up now. Let me know if you can hear it once it starts playing.
What's really going on at the Vatican this week? Because if you're like me, you've seen some wild conspiracies with this event going on right now. They're currently opening these holy doors, and some people saying portals. And given the Vatican's history, you know, like the audience hall being shaped like a serpent, and just the history in general of this place, the event taking place right now is very significant. So the Pope is opening 5 holy doors, each on different days, and some reputable sources are actually calling them portals just because of the spiritual significance that they carry. The thing is, this only happens every 25 years, marking what's called the Year of Jubilee. But this year is different. For the first time in history, A fifth door is being opened, and this is what really is causing the pot to stir. So these are the names and dates of each door that is being opened, and the one that's never been opened before is the second one, the prison in Rome. And by the time I'm making this video, it already happened. But the holy doors represent a spiritual passage and commitment to follow Jesus, and they're going to remain open throughout the year. Pilgrims from around the world will visit Rome to pass through these doors as a symbol of renewal and grace. This ritual in general just gives some people an eerie feeling, and there's a lot of conspiracies going around. Some people think these doors are more than just doors, maybe gateways, but I'm curious to know what you guys think about this.
So do you want to comment on it before I get into the article, or do you want me to bring the article up?
No, we can comment a little bit because kind of the video and the article are two separate perspectives. So yeah, what do you think about that video? Just broad strokes, you can get as detailed as you want.
Well, kind of leaving it vague for now because I don't know too much information on this. I've kind of been seeing this stuff pass around, and I mean, definitely think that there's just a lot of weirdness around this Pope. I guess it's just a good way to kind of start off the conversation that just in general, if I'm not mistaken, wasn't this the Pope that kind of introduced like the whole like woke ideology like into the church and into the Vatican and everything too? Or am I thinking of a different guy?
I do not follow it close enough to know. The only thing I'll say as far as all that kind of stuff is the timing of everything does seem kind of odd, just with like everything else going on in the world, just like gesturing wildly out into the ether right now. I mean, with politics and everything else, and you know, just how a lot of things are lining up as far as, I'm not even going to say prophecy because I don't want to get into that can of worms, but you know, just stuff about like, you know, the red heifers and like retaking the Temple Mount and like all this like kind of religious stuff that's going on to kind of like supposedly usher in the end times. Like I think like opening these portals is like, or supposedly is pretty interesting in light of all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I could definitely, I mean, the aspect that it kind of comes in with this thing is, I guess there just seems like there's just like a darker presence that's being brought about with all of this type of stuff.
Foot just said in the chat, it's the first Jesuit Pope. And again, I'm trying not to get us canceled or kicked off of YouTube, but there's a lot to dig in with like Jesuits and things like that as well. So,
oh, it looks like he's dropping some more information. He says secret society Catholic control group that does assassinations and drug running and military murder. So, also, just to throw in a quick what's up, welcome to the chat, Ryley from Midwest Mythos. We appreciate you stopping by. And also, thanks for digging the stash. I've been growing it out, as you can tell. But diving back into this weird stuff, I mean, have we heard anything that's going on with the whole like heifer thing? Because I was kind of keeping tabs on that for a while, that they were like at the point where they were basically had like it down, I think like 2 or 3 heifers. And I know that there's a lot of like turmoil going on with obviously everything going in the Middle East as far as like them actually trying to build this temple and all that. But have you heard any updates on it? Have they done anything with this heifer thing or anything?
Yeah, so I like fell penis deep into this stuff a while back. And so, you know, supposedly, you know, they've been waiting for thousands of years to have these perfect red heifers that they can sacrifice on, you know, the Temple Mount and whatever, but they've got to rebuild the temple. And this is all like paraphrasing. I don't claim to be a theologian or anything, but basically, long story short, from my limited understanding, is all this is like kind of for them to almost like artificially bring about the end times, quote unquote. And so this is one of those things, as far as I'm concerned, like, and this is not to sound sacrilegious, but like whatever's true and not true isn't as important as the fact that these people in these positions of power believe this stuff. And according to like the prophecy, scripture, whatever, like they have to rebuild the third temple on the Temple Mount in order to do this. And that's like currently occupied by Muslims. So basically they're going to start World War III in order to do this ceremony that's supposed to bring about the end times, which then becomes a, you know, chicken and egg situation as far as I'm concerned.
Do you know what's really funny is, do you remember my predictions that I brought last week from Baba Vanga?
Mm-hmm.
She was talking about that the start of the end would start in 2025 with a holy war that starts World War III in the Middle East. So, I mean, like diving in with all of this type of stuff, this is why I brought that article last week, is because it seems like we're on the fence currently, where like, is it going to happen? Is it not going to happen? Like everything is lined up where this stuff is about to happen, but you start getting into like the weird side of like timelines, that if you start following into like the possibility of like split timelines, that, you know, on one timeline this event happens, then on the other timeline this event doesn't happen. It almost feels like we're like at this timeline split where either one, there is going to be two separate timelines that split off, or two, it's going to end up following onto like one of these two paths. But I don't know. There's just a lot of weird predictions, all based around World War III starting with a holy war in the Middle East. And I mean, even bring in kind of like our aspect into it. It seems like there's been a lot of like riling up of Christians in the Americas, as far as even getting into like the woke ideology and everything behind like the military and everything. And I think that there's also this like weird intentional ploy where they've made the military a lot less tough than it used to be. Almost like they're kind of doing this manipulative programming where it's like, all right, this is what our armies turned into. Like they want to have this generation of pissed off people that want to show that, you know, they can go and they can fight the war, and they'll be like, step out of the way. We can't have this weak military. But then once you have this like Christian force and you start talking about building holy temples in the Middle East and you start getting them involved, it's like at that point, it seems like it's very just stuck in the Middle East. But once you kind of start getting like the Christian aspect kind of incorporated into this, when you start getting like the Christian side of the Americans riled up and they start getting involved in this war, then at that point it turns into a all-out holy war. And again, that's what all these predictions kind of seem to wrap around, are these like all-out holy wars starting World War III.
Yeah, and there's a lot of, I'll just say, weird stuff surrounding, and this is not to get political or offend anybody's ideology or anything like that. But there's a lot of kind of, I'll just call them conspiracy theories surrounding like Trump and his role in all this. There's a guy that I've like watched several YouTube videos, listened to some podcasts. His name is Brandon Kroll. I don't know if you've heard of him. But he's got basically this whole theory, and it's based off some other books and things, that like Donald Trump is the literal like biblical antichrist. And I'm not saying I necessarily believe that or anything, but like
I've been saying it's Elon Musk, and he's still involved.
Well, and he even goes into that. Like there's this whole thing in the Bible about how there's the beast, and then again, I'm not a theologian, but there's this thing about how there's this other figure that will like present the beast, and supposedly that's Elon Musk, and like there's some crazy shit. But like you know, some of it's pretty out there, but there's some like weird stuff as far as like etymology and numerology and things like that. Like Donald Trump's mother's name is Mary and his father's middle name is Christ, and just like some weird connections and stuff like that. But anyway, if anybody's interested in that, there's a lot of stuff that you guys can find about all that. But I think that's like an interesting angle in light of all this too. Like you said, it just seems like we're at this moment where, you know, there's a lot of things kind of happening. And like I said earlier, to me, you know, what's true and not true is not nearly as important in real world terms anyway, as, you know, the people in power believe this stuff and what they're willing to try to do to make these things happen.
I mean, when it comes to a lot of these like occult societies, like this is kind of a debate that we've had a lot on the show, is whether or not these people believe it, or if it's a matter of conducting this ritual, I guess, for like the sake of doing it or to see if something will happen. Like, I'm kind of curious if it's on the fence where these people full on believe and they know that this kind of stuff is if that stuff's gonna happen, or if on the other side it's a matter of like this mass understanding of psychology where they always make everybody feel like an event's going to happen. So everybody is always on their edge of their seat. They're not thinking rationally. And then they're able to kind of manipulate things when everybody else isn't thinking rationally. Like, is it just psychology, or is there literally like this magical cult concept to all of this shit?
Hey, piggybacking off of that, Foot just said in the chat, there could easily be another 9/11 event in America where thousands of citizens are murdered by the U.S. military, and it's blamed on foreign entity. So interestingly, that's part of this whole conspiracy too, that basically like 9/11 was like the occult ritual to christen the Antichrist. And there's some crazy stuff about the numerology and all that kind of stuff too.
And all the Simpson shit, just to throw that back.
What's that?
All the Simpson predictions of 9/11 too, just to throw that one back.
Yeah, and then there's stuff with like how 9/11 like corresponds with the tarot, and like there's the Tower card and all that kind of stuff. So I mean, I feel like this episode will get canceled and taken down, but I'd love to do an episode about this kind of stuff at some point. I just don't know how like it could really be done. But anyway.
I mean, we can definitely do it. We'll just not post it on YouTube because it'll get flagged on YouTube. But on all of our other feeds, dude, we're good. We've said a lot of fucked up shit and never had a problem. So it's just YouTube, we get flagged sometimes.
Yeah, but anyway, so you want me to jump into this article before we get a little too deep in the weeds on all this stuff?
Yes, sir. And also, just to throw this one in here, Ryley commented on, and I know he follows a lot of this stuff pretty closely. There's a lot of motion that still has to be done before the third temple can be erected. So he's saying there's still a lot of stuff going on. It's not just as simple as like they just find the heifer and they can start building it. So yeah, I'm sure that he'll probably also keep me informed a little bit on that as it gets a little bit closer to that possibly happening. But I almost feel like it's gonna be one of those things that it's almost like about to just happen, but it's just gonna keep getting pushed out. You know,
and that's all relative as well. Like in astrological terms, about to happen. That could be another 100 years. So. But anyway, right. I've got the article pulled up on my end if you're ready.
Yep, I'm about to bring it up on screen so everybody in the chat can check it out. All right, got it up here.
Okay, and again, this is kind of piggybacking. Oh, hang on. My page just crashed. All right, here we go. All right, so this is more about like the Pope and the Vatican opening the portals. So this starts, and this article is from Vice. And so, like we always say, there's all these articles of this thing that we're saying happened can't possibly be true and can't possibly have happened. But anyway, this is kind of funny and the opposite end of the spectrum from the video we just watched. So it begins.
Is it one of those
saying,
really good ones where they contradict themselves as they go through, like those last couple articles
we've read on here? But it's still very biased, we'll just say. So it starts off.
The Carolina hurricane ones was great. That was just this could never happen, but at the same time, maybe
this thing that we said happened in the article did not happen. But anyway, this starts. Spoiler alert: not everything you hear on TikTok is true. Well, that's a groundbreaking piece of information there. So
I didn't know that. I'm so glad that a Vice article told me that.
Thank you, Vice. Ahead of the Christmas holidays, some TikTok users have worked themselves into a mini frenzy about the ritualistic celebrations taking place at the Vatican. One TikToker gained plenty of views and comments claiming that Pope Francis is planning to celebrate. My page dropped again. All right, here it goes. That Pope Francis is planning to celebrate Christmas Eve by opening 5 spiritual portals that have never been opened before and live streaming the tomb of Lucifer that is underneath the Vatican. Understandably, this caused some concern and confusion. Luckily for us, though, Snopes.com, that's another great piece of investigative journalism there, went through a lengthy breakdown about why that's just not happening. We don't need to watch the video. It's not as good as the one we just watched.
Just a comment. Why is Lucifer's tomb underneath the Vatican?
Well, they're saying really that's not true either. But anyway, so firstly, the spiritual portals are actually doors. And I'm going to stop right there. Like, okay, yeah, maybe, but they say...
Isn't a portal a door?
Well, I was going to say, and they say earlier in the article that this is a ritual. Rituals are about symbolism. They're about manifesting. So yes, it could be just a fucking door, but what does that door mean in the larger context of the ritual? So anyway,
I mean, in the simplest terms, a portal is a door. It's an entryway into somewhere else. Like that is a fucking door in the most literal term. It's just an added flair on the word door, like.
Well, yes, it's just tomato, however you want to look at it. So the tradition of the Pope opening 5 holy doors is in accordance with the Roman Catholic tradition known as a Jubilee, which takes place every 25 years. This, I'm glad we talked about what we just talked about because it's kind of interesting. We're in 2025, so that means like one of these things would have happened in roughly the year 2000. What happened just a few months after that we just talked about? 9/11. So kind of interesting there. One door will be opened on December 24th, with the subsequent doors opened on December 26th, December 29th, January 1st, and January 5th. The detail about the portals having, quote, never been opened before seems to stem from a New York Post article titled Pope Francis to open 5 sacred portals on Christmas Eve for a ritual that's never been done before. Though not quite false, the headline could be categorized as carefully worded clickbait. The part about the opening 5 sacred portals is not new to Catholicism. The never been done before part refers to the fact that one of the holy doors is located in the Roman prison of some word I'm not going to try to pronounce. According to the Roman Catholic Church's something else, it will be, quote, the first time that in addition to the holy doors opened in the 4 Roman papal basilicas, one will also be opened in a penal institution. Haven't a lot of Catholic things been opened in penal institutions? So moving on. No, the Vatican does not have a tomb dedicated to Lucifer. Bible scholar Dan McClellan made a YouTube video debunking multiple TikToks about the tomb of Lucifer. He noted that the claims could stem from Michelle Basso's guide to the Vatican necropolis. The guide features a map of the Vatican necropolis, which includes a tomb marked Lucifer, which was constructed in the pre-Constantine era. McClellan points out that at the time the tomb was likely identified, the term Lucifer was not a reference to Satan. It was just a generic title with several prominent Christian figures having the name themselves. Now, I wish, is Ryley still in the chat? Because I'd like to get his opinions on this if he is, because isn't the term Lucifer like in the Bible? So, I mean, I know there's a lot of conspiracy theories with like the translation of the King James Bible and all that, but like all this seems like a very thinly veiled, like nothing to see here to me, but I don't know enough about it to really say, emphatically.
I've always heard that like Satan, the devil, like all of those are titles, and like Lucifer is like the name itself. So this almost kind of seems like backwards of most of the information I've heard on it, because Lucifer, obviously with an L, like it's referring to something specifically rather than like a title of something, because you'll see like Satan sometimes where like the S won't be capitalized and like it's like king, like it's like a title, but like Lucifer is like a name,
exactly.
Like,
and like I've heard like if you really read the Bible in the context of like people use Satan, Lucifer, the devil all interchangeably, but like if you really read the context, it's talking about separate entities. Like it's not all one dude with horns and a pointy tail running around, so I think that most people just have such a fucking grade school level of understanding of a lot of this stuff. And not saying that, again, I'm not a theologian or anything, but we just accept everything at face value and nobody looks into it even one step further. And there's a lot of weird stuff like right out in broad daylight that people just don't realize.
I mean, when it comes to a lot of the religious stuff, I mean, there's definitely a lot of people out there that do the work. I'm not going to pretend like there's not. But on the other side, there is a really good portion of people that I firmly believe have probably never read more than like a single couple verses at a time, where they're basically getting their full interpretation of the Bible from whoever happens to be preaching it to them. And everybody kind of knows that certain topics, certain things will kind of get avoided in the mainstream church because they just don't want to go down that road. So, if you're one of those people that's not picking up the book, reading it yourself, and you're just getting all of your thoughts and ideas from somebody else reading the book and giving you their thoughts and ideas on it, then you're not really doing just for yourself, in all fairness, on that one either. I mean, like, yeah, you have to read the book. You can't just listen to the audiobook and expect that you understood every single nuance that was in the book. Like, you have to see the pages and see how the words are placed and how things are said yourself. You can't, because two people can read the same sentence, and maybe the only difference that could totally change what the sentence means as having a certain hyphen in a particular spot. But if somebody reads it to you and they don't like enunciate that hyphen, then that sentence is going to have a totally different meaning. So it's a matter of just playing telephone. And a lot of people down the line, just generations of always hearing Lucifer, Satan, the devil, all being the same thing. Now it's getting to a point where people are actually starting to pick up the book and read it themselves again, or starting to realize that, again, those are titles. You're talking about multiple different things. They're not all referring to the same thing when they use all those titles interchangeably.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this a little bit on the show before, but, I grew up in church, went to church camp every year growing up, just the whole shebang. And like, I feel like I know more about the Bible now than I ever have just from like weird stuff like this, which is kind of ironic. But anywho, we just got a couple more sentences here. I'll go ahead and knock this out. Moreover, McClellan explains that on the necropolis map, many tombs are named for families as, quote, the tomb of blank. However, the Lucifer tomb is noted as just that, the Lucifer tomb, not the tomb of Lucifer. Oh, well, that makes it way better.
It's all about the wording, right?
Just like you said, it's not the tomb of Lucifer, it's Lucifer's tomb. Big difference. This is probably associated with some graffiti that was found in the tomb, or because it was connected in some way with one of the prominent Lucifers from the 4th century CE, like Lucifer of Cagliari, who was a prominent defender. So rest assured, TikTokers, there will be plenty of ritualistic symbolism happening at the Vatican. Lucifer will not be part of it. Okay, whatever y'all say.
So before we start hopping into the last bit of stuff, do you want to run through the chat real quick and pick up the important stuff? Because I see a lot of stuff going back and forth with Lucifer and stuff in the chats.
Okay, yeah, because I had the article pulled up on my end, so I have not been looking at the chat. Oh, yeah, we had, man, Lucifer the Morning Star. Yeah, we got some good stuff going on here.
I think we stopped off at the red flag from Foot Clan.
Okay,
so
I was trying to go back to where we stopped before. We got some Epstein Island stuff going on in the chat. I love that. Israel has more control than we know. That's a good comment. Don't cancel us, everybody. Satanic ritual by the Pope, nothing new. Don't necessarily disagree with that. Don't cancel us, everybody. Meaning of Lucifer changed to proper name with Latin. Hebrew and Greek, it just refers to Venus. Yeah, so I've heard that about, Venus and the morning star and Lucifer, and, a lot of the UFOs supposedly come from Venus. There's a lot of cool stuff to unpack with that, too. There's a connection between astrology and the tale of Jesus, etc. Age of Aquarius. Yeah, I've heard that. Some good stuff there too, guys. Lucifer was not originally a proper name. Much of our Lucifer ideas came from Dante's Inferno and Paradise Lost. That's a great point, aliens. Foot says they turned a lot of the truth into an astrotheology story as Jesus as the sun in the sky and the planets representing other gods, etc. That's a good comment too, and kind of lines up with some of the stuff we were talking about earlier, as far as how, a lot of these rituals and stuff, and, these people might not even be worshiping God or Jesus, and this is all like thinly veiled Gnostic pagan sun worship. And there's a lot of symbolism and stuff that I'm not going to get into right now, but there's some pretty crazy stuff again if you guys want to dig into that. So yeah, we got some great comments here, guys. Thank y'all so much for contributing to this. It's so cool to have you guys, kind of dig what we're talking about and join in. So a big thank you to everybody in the chat today.
Also, Foot Clan says, no, you can't just read the Bible. You need a good teacher to catch you up to speed, or you will be lost. Definitely agree with that. Just make sure it's somebody you trust, of course. That's definitely one of the main things when it comes to that. Don't just be going to some mega church and hoping that they're going to be preaching you the information that you need or how, it needs to be deciphered, because they definitely have an agenda behind it. So yeah, I'll give you that. You're right. You can't just pick up the book and read yourself. You definitely need somebody to kind of help you out. Otherwise you might be lost. But again, just make sure it's somebody that you trust and isn't going to manipulate the information.
Isn't that kind of the catch-22? I mean, religion is, I think what Christianity and religion stands for are all beautiful, great things. But like any other man-made structure, power dynamics and agendas and all that kind of man-made bullshit is always going to seep into it. So, I mean, that's kind of the catch-22 with all of this stuff as far as I'm concerned.
Yep. And he says it's called Bible study. You don't have to own the Bible to have somebody read you the Bible study and explain the lesson. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that definitely, I mean, there's only one way to really take it. It's when you start getting into like all the weird aspects of stuff, which is more so what I was kind of bringing up. Like when you start diving into like, I know a lot of people may not believe that it's canon, but like the Book of Enoch and everything like that. There's certain parts that are kind of open for interpretation that I don't think that it's necessarily like as cut and dry as some people may think that it is. There's definitely a lot of lessons that need to be learned that are very cut and dry. Like it's exactly how it says that it is. Like it's pretty easy to interpret. But when you start getting into like the weird books that are like canon, not canon, like that's kind of up for debate back and forth, then that's when, you really have to figure out what interpretation you're taking in, because it can be taken in so many different ways. And
there's a lot of weird conspiracies with that kind of stuff too. How like basically the punk rock emo books of the Bible, like there was, and in the chat they can probably correct my details on this, but at some point in time, like many hundreds of years ago, there was like this big meeting, conference, whatever, with the church officials, leaders, whatever, that basically decided what was going to be the Bible and what wasn't. And then they, like I said, kicked out the emo punk rock books.
So after getting into some serious conversation for a while, I have something that's a little bit more comic relief. So I'm sure that you have heard of the World's Strongest Man competition. And I'm sure that you have also heard of the Tough Mudder competition. But Orin, have you heard of the Florida Man Games?
No, but you have my attention.
All right. So to get into this one,
this is the Florida Man Games. We missed round one.
2. Yes, we missed round 1 on this one, and it is live feed. So maybe we could even do something where we live feed part of these games. But you have to hear how wonderful these games sound. So just to kind of scroll down a little bit, because dude, I was laughing my ass off when I found this earlier, and there are videos of it. If people would like to see some videos, I could probably bring them up, such as the trailer. But first, we have to get into some of the games that you might be playing at the Florida Man competition. Number 1, evading arrest obstacle course.
That's
Floridians are chased by the police after stealing copper pipes and catalytic converters. Find the frozen iguana and a chunk of gator through a drive-through window to earn a victory and your freedom.
Okay, I'm going to stop you right there. I'm going to round up all my childhood friends, and we're going to take the Eastern North Carolina team down to the Florida Man Games, and we're going to fucking clean house, man.
North Carolina boys taking the Florida title. Yeah, you're going to take it away from those Floridians.
Oh, yeah. We can steal some fucking catalytic converters and copper wiring, man. Doesn't stand a fucking chance.
It gets crazier. So we also have the weaponized pool noodle mud duel. Crowds roar as the Floridas go head-to-head in the muddy Florida-style jousting competition.
I think we'd be pretty strong at that one, too.
Beat some fucking ass. Here's the one that I think that you might be the best at. Eat the butt challenge.
In every sense of the word.
Floridians must finish their pork butt platter in the fastest time to place highest in the initial bracket.
All right. This is where shit's getting real. The Florida contingent has nothing on the Eastern North Carolina contingent when it comes to barbecue and pork butt eating. It's not even a fucking question. We're taking gold in this one.
We got to start up our own competition. We got to do it like maybe around Georgia. You got to meet up in the middle somewhere. And you got to have North Carolina versus Florida and see who takes the title for the most southern motherfucker. That's the most southern motherfucker competition.
I mean, I think this is it right here. I think that thing already exists.
Florida sumo cage match and beer chug, because you have to have a sumo match and beer chug put together. You can't just have them both separate. I mean, especially not in Florida. Conquer the Florida Man Games chain link cage as Floridians try to knock down their opponents or spill the beer from the pitcher. The loser can still put points on the board by chugging the opponent's remaining beer. I think you'd kick ass at that one too.
Man, I like all of this. Every word It is just one of my core things. Here we go.
This is one
Here
of the
we
good
go.
ones. Hurricane party prep. Grocery aisle brawl.
This is good.
Floridians must battle it out against each other to get the last of the hurricane prep and party supplies left on the shelf.
You know, just when you think, you know, the South is not a monolith, we're not all the same, then you see some shit like this is like, yep, maybe we are.
I think you guys might have an advantage. This might be too dark of a joke and might be too soon, but you guys have an advantage on that one. You guys just had to deal with that recently.
I mean, it's not just recently. We're like the damn fucking Boston Celtics of hurricane prep.
You'd be like this guy running through the store, man. You already know what to grab. You got to grab that fucking TP and you got to grab that Jack Daniels. Call it a day.
Well, and they sell Jack Daniels in grocery stores in Florida. Those guys got a leg up.
Hey, they sell them in Myers, too. You can get them up in Michigan.
Son of a bitch.
All right, human beer pong.
Okay.
Floridians always take things way too far. This is a combative Florida-sized beer pong style challenge. The stakes are high, but maybe not as high as the Floridians.
Okay.
So wait, how would this work? Is there one single ball? Do you throw yourself into the bowl? Like how would this work? I'm curious. I have to watch how this game is played.
I mean, that is kind of my assumption based off of that picture, but who knows?
And then also, not only is it for the men, but there is also the Florida Women Bonus Challenge. Some of the best Florida men headlines are Florida women stories. We'll definitely leave you with something to talk about after this one. So this one's very vague. I don't really know what it is. Is it the craziest Floridian woman? Because that's kind of how I take it.
I mean, I feel like there's a lot of different ways you could go with this one.
I kind of hope that would be the case. But I feel like there'd be a lot of nudity in that case then.
I
there's a lot of
really,
those cases.
really hope so.
I would expect that 90% of the people that are going to be at this event are going to be, if not fully nude, very close to being partially nude.
Well, but let's be realistic. Anyone that's participating in the Florida Woman Bonus Challenge, you probably don't want to see participating in the Florida Woman Bonus Challenge.
Yeah, a lot of miles on that one. A lot of tread on them tires. All right, so getting into the last little bit, and there's still another really good one coming up. Ninja Nation Obstacle Course, because of course, you got to have the Tough Mudder aspect to this whole thing, because you haven't already done that enough, and you got to have one thing that's not super Florida up in here. And this one, right after that, you got to get into the most Florida thing I've ever heard in my fucking life. Mechanical fucking gator. Before you can jump into the swamp with a real gator, you'll have to prove you're a true Floridian by dominating the mechanical gator at the Florida Gator Games.
So when I was in college, there's this like honky-tonk bar. It's called City Limits, and we affectionately referred to it as Shitty Limits. And we would go every fucking Thursday, man. And my roommate, the same fellow from the story I told about when we got detained in Washington, D.C. by the Secret Service, just the big old corn-fed bastard who always wore overalls and whatnot. Anyway, at the Shitty Limits, they always had like bikini bull riding every Thirsty Thursday.
Oh, hell yeah.
And so
you got to go on Thursdays.
I said, we went every week pretty much. And this guy was like just this larger than life country character. So he got like picked out of the crowd to be like one of the judges for bikini bull riding. So then like we were just, plugged into the social pipeline there at the Shitty Limits. So anyway, I've got experience in this arena as well.
Dude, I think it would be another thing where, again, it's Florida. Do you want to see the women riding the mechanical gator? Actually, you might get away with having some hot Floridians
in Raleigh, North Carolina, it was really hit or miss. So
got a lot of butterface.
Yeah.
Ocula Knockerball. That sounds like something you shouldn't be saying.
That sounds like a part of the Florida Woman Games.
It should be. Slam into your friends at full
Knockerball,
speed.
I just met her.
That's what she said.
Slam into your friends at high speed in a high intensity knockerball game. If you haven't tried these yet, you have to. If you have to, it's time for round 2. So I'm assuming that you basically just get into the giant blow up things and you just try to ram into each other while playing soccer. I mean, this sounds like it might be kind of fun.
Yeah, that's some church camp shit right there.
Straight up. And the joust, because of course you can't have a Florida game without a joust. Go head to head, just like the main eventers, and see which one survives the joust. Now, considering it's Florida, I was kind of hoping they'd at least have some, gators in the water, maybe even if it's just some stuffed
they're
gators.
in like a fucking 1 foot deep Fisher Price my first swimming pool there.
I mean, fuck, look how dirty that goddamn water is. I mean, that's swampy enough, man. There might be a beta gator
got it
in
out
there.
of a bucket from the swamp. It's probably got the brain-eating amoebas from Disneyland in it.
That's what happens if you lose. If you fall in the water, you get brain-eating amoebas, but I feel like everybody
that's some
who's at this
fucking
competition
motivation
may
there,
already be
man.
partially contaminated, so.
Save
and don't
your
forget, guys,
seat. No.
save your seat
I want
for
to
a limited number
participate.
of tickets. And also, Orin, you can become a vendor here, man. We could go and we could vend for the podcast at the Florida Gator Games. Can you imagine the crazy stories that we would get
You're
out of
not
this?
listening. I don't want to vend. I don't want to observe. I want to participate. I'm putting the dream team together.
Well, just for the sake of it, so you know what you're getting yourself into. They do have a trailer, and we can watch that trailer. I just got to bring it up here on another page. And before we start wrapping up completely, we will watch the trailer for the Florida Man Games.
So we should start a Patreon or a GoFundMe for us to raise funds for our Florida Man Games team. We need to get like jerseys. I'm going to get Felix 69 on the back of mine.
Big Bad Boo Daddy. Just got to have Boo Daddy. That'd be your name on the jersey.
There we go.
Boo Daddy 69. And I'd be Squatch. I don't know. I'd have a cool number. Fuck it.
20.
Fuck 20. Well, getting into the Florida Games. Here we go.
All right, let's do it.
They're amping it up, man. This looks like a lot of fun just from the music. Oh, yeah, there you go. There you go, there you go.
I love how they have like knockoff Kid Rock music playing during this trailer.
Dude, that evade the cops challenge looks like it'd probably be the most fun because they straight up got cops in uniforms chasing you, bro. And you get put in the back of a cop car if you lose.
Oh, that's not that bad.
Look at them mullets, bro. We got mullets for days.
Oh,
Cadillac converter stealing?
There we go.
Where's the gator? I want to see somebody riding this damn gator.
No joke though, like alligator is fucking delicious.
I've had gator wings once at a road stop cafe. There you go. There's a gator. At least they show one gator. The Coochie Commander. Do you see that?
Man, we got to come up with a clever team name. All right,
Boo Daddies.
You heard it here first. We need like a training montage, like Rocky IV type situation. We're getting the team together like the fucking Redneck Avengers next year.
We're doing it, man. We're going to win this thing. We're going to win it for Bizarre Encounters. We just got to come up with a really raunchy, Floridian sounding variation of Bizarre Encounters. And then I think we'll have it on lockdown, man.
I'm on that. Give me 30 seconds. I'll have something. So
we'll come up with a cool logo. We'll have it covered. It'll be great.
Yeah, you can do all the artwork and I'll come up with the team name. So, all right.
Just make sure you guys all look out for that GoFundMe so that we can all make it out to the Florida Games. And if you think that you might be not vulnerable, but an asset to our team, then let us know. A vulnerable ass for our team.
That's what she said.
Just throw in one more.
So, team name. Are you familiar with the work of one Rob Zombie? He's got that song, P.
Roberto Zombie?
Star, Y. Liquor, like Liquor. We should be like the butt liquors, Liquor.
People are we're gonna psych people out real bad because we'll suck ass at the butt eating challenge and we'll stomp their asses at the fucking evading the cops challenge
and the catalytic converter theft challenge.
Yep. We'll stomp it, man. We got this.
Wow. You said you had something good. I was not expecting that. I'm pretty thoroughly impressed by that.
I had to save the best for last, man. I came across that and I was just like, no, this is too good to not talk about on the shows. This is just the most Florida thing I've ever heard in my entire fucking life.
Yeah, I'm all in. So stay tuned, guys. We're starting the GoFundMe. So anyway, Shane, why don't you tell everybody when our next live episode is going to be and all that kind of good stuff.
So first and foremost, before we get into all of that, I wanted to give a big thank you and shout out to everybody that hung around for the show. Don from Unacknowledged and Unknown, Patrick from Aliens for Beginners. Ryley from Midwest Mythos, and Foot Clan, whoever you happen to be. I don't know if I've talked to you before, but I definitely appreciate you popping into the chat and hanging out for a bit. We also had somebody that sat around and they didn't actually comment anything, but we definitely appreciate you being here. Hopefully we'll keep expanding. We'll have more people on the next show, which brings me into the next point. We will be doing this live every single month, the first Thursday of every single month. So the next episode that will be live will be on April 3rd. It'll be at the same time, 7:15 p.m. EST. So if anybody's interested in popping in to listen to that show, it again will be on the Open Minds Media YouTube. And if you guys aren't able to pop in for the live show, it will be our episode for the following week for Bizarre Encounters. So you guys can always check it out there. And if anybody has any questions or anything like that they want to submit, Orin, what can they do?
Well, first off, again, to kind of just double up on what Shayn said, thank you guys so much for participating and being so active in the chat. Some really great comments from basically everybody. So cool to hear you guys engaged and adding your knowledge into the discussion. So based off of that,
this comment's great. I just had to mention that. Say Ocula Knockerball 3 times while staring in a mirror. Thank you for that.
Is that going to like make Florida Man appear behind you like a Bloody Mary type situation?
What would Florida Man look like? He'd be like half gator, half man. That's fucking horrifying.
I mean, that's best case scenario.
On bath salts. He'd be on bath salts, man.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
can you imagine a guy with a gator head trying to eat you?
Half
Holy
gator man
shit.
is best case scenario. But anyway, if you guys want to suggest a topic or an article or anything like that for us to talk about, just something that you guys would like to engage with and contribute, Shayn, why don't you tell them how they can submit all those questions and ideas and videos and whatever else?
First and foremost, you guys can email us, bizarreencounters@outlook.com, or Inquiries of Our Reality Podcast at Outlook.com, whatever means you guys are listening through. Or you guys can get a hold of us through social media. Instagram and Facebook are the ones that we are the most active on. You guys can get a hold of us through either of those show pages. Again, whatever is easier for you guys. Or you guys can also get a hold of us through our link tree. There's a submission form on there. You guys can send your clips, articles, questions, whatever you want to do through there. Or the last way that you guys can send stuff in is you guys can text or you guys can call the hotline, and that number is 313-364-1551. And if you guys want to be able to keep up to date on when we're going live, anything that's going on interesting with the shows, again, you guys can follow us across social media, Instagram, Facebook, whatever you guys happen to find us on. And if you guys like what we do over here, getting into this crazy shit once a month, doing our normal shows, all that fun stuff, you guys can, one, support us through the merch store, the Open Minds Media merch store. We got a lot of awesome designs pertaining to cryptids, conspiracies, and a lot of the topics we talk about on the show. And then the other way that you guys can support us is by becoming a Patreon member. Depending on which tier you select, you can either get ad-free / early access, you can get premium videos of episodes, you can get merch store discounts, all that awesome stuff. But anyway, you guys choose to support the show, we greatly appreciate.
Like, share, and subscribe.
Of course, like, share, subscribe, do all that stuff, do all the fun stuff, click the corners, all that bullshit.
Or don't. I don't give a shit.
We don't give a fuck. We degrade on here. It is what it is. You guys can just listen to the show on the main feed, or you guys can get the video. You do what you guys want to do. As long as you're listening to our random bullshit, that's all we care, right? Because it makes us feel like we're doing something.
We're doing something, whether it's productive or good. I don't know, but
still yet to be determined. And every single thing that we mentioned throughout the show is all available on the link tree, which is available down in the show description. And of course, if anybody wants to check out any of the stuff that we've talked about today, I also include all of the clips to all the links to anything that we talked about down in the show description, so you guys can check all that stuff out for yourselves. And I have been the one that, like, 2 people call Shayn Squatch.
And I have been the Big Bad Boo Daddy, number 69, Orin Felix, coming to a town near you.
And we greatly appreciate all you guys for being here. Hoping some more of you guys pop into the chat, submit some questions. And again, anything you guys do, we greatly appreciate. Support the show, support all podcasts. And if there is any other podcast that you guys enjoy, don't forget to support that too. And, of course, your YouTube exclusive show, Bizarre Encounters. Always support it. We love you guys, and we can't wait for next time. And we will be seeing you guys again on April 3rd.
Butt lickers? I'm training over here.
Hell yeah.